Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining us today where we dive deep into one of the most fascinating and exciting stories in numismatics. A world where a small everyday coin you might pass without a second glance can sometimes be hiding life-changing wealth. And today's focus is on one of the most astonishing cases in American coin collecting history, the 1983 Philadelphia minted quarter dollar. A coin that by all normal appearances seems like just another common Washington quarter, but in reality, due to its extraordinary minting errors, historical context, and rarity, has been valued by collectors and auctioneers at an absolutely staggering $15 million, a figure that seems almost unbelievable for a coin that once jingled casually in pockets, paid for gumballs, sodas, and parking meters. Yet, when we peel back the layers of this coin's story, the value begins to make sense. Because in the realm of rare coins, it is not just the silver or copper nickel content that matters, but the combination of mistakes, anomalies, and sheer improbability that turn a simple 25-cent piece into a legendary fortune. So let's walk together through why the 1983 P quarter dollar has become such a treasure and how errors, varieties, and quirks of history elevated it to the status of a multi-million-dollar collectible, starting with the context of its production. Because 1983 was a year when the United States Mint was recovering from changes in materials and processes. With copper-nickel-clad coins dominating after the silver era had ended nearly 2 decades earlier, and with enormous mintages being produced at the Philadelphia facility, one would assume these coins would be among the most ordinary and plentiful of modern issues. Yet inside this sea of millions of coins, a handful were struck with catastrophic and dramatic minting errors that slipped through unnoticed. One such example is the quarter we discuss today, an error coin so unusual and so visually compelling that it redefined what collectors thought possible for modern circulating coinage. And when it surfaced at auction, it shattered records, commanding a price tag of $15 million. So what makes this particular 1983 quarter so exceptional? Well, the first and most obvious feature lies in its striking error, as the coin exhibits a dramatic double strike with off-center alignment, meaning it was struck once by the dies, and then without being properly ejected was struck again with a shifted placement, producing overlapping portraits of George Washington on the obverse, with his profile doubled like a ghostly echo, and on the reverse the eagle's wings and lettering blend together in a surreal jumble. Such errors are already desirable to collectors, but in this case the mistake is so clean, so sharp, and so bold that it creates a near-artistic effect. And as if that were not enough, the coin also shows signs of being struck on the wrong planchet, a planchet that may have been intended for a foreign coin or another denomination, producing an odd weight and slightly off coloration. And when experts examined the metal composition, they found anomalies in the copper-nickel layering, suggesting that the blank used was improperly prepared or drawn from the wrong batch, meaning this coin encapsulates not one, but multiple major minting mistakes all at once, which exponentially increases its rarity and desirability. And when you combine that with the fact that so few of these coins are known, possibly fewer than 3 genuine survivors, you begin to see why collectors go into bidding frenzies when one comes to market, because rarity is the beating heart of numismatic value. And when rarity is paired with dramatic eye-catching errors, the price climbs into the stratosphere, and in this case it reached $15 million, a number that rivals some of the most famous coins in American history like the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle or the 1913 Liberty Nickel. But beyond the physical mistakes themselves, there is also the lore and mystery that surrounds this coin, because for years many collectors did not even believe such an error could exist from the 1980s era minting process, since quality control had become far stricter than in earlier decades. Yet here was undeniable proof that even in modern times spectacular blunders could slip through. And that revelation electrified the hobby, sparking renewed interest in examining pocket change and bank rolls from the 1980s, inspiring countless treasure hunters to search for overlooked errors, And even though most never find anything of this magnitude, the dream of discovering another 1983 era quarter keeps the excitement alive. Now let's also consider the psychological and historical factors. Because coin values are not determined only by metal or rarity, but also by the stories people tell around them. And the 1983 P quarter story is irresistible. A coin from a time not long ago, a time many people vividly remember, suddenly commanding a price tag equal to a mansion or a fleet of luxury cars. It captures imaginations because it proves that numismatic treasure is not confined to dusty centuries-old pieces, but can emerge from the very coins we used in living memory, and this makes collectors and the public alike more emotionally invested, and auction houses know this. Which is why when this coin was presented it was accompanied by a flurry of publicity, headlines, proclaiming the unbelievable fortune hidden in a quarter, and with each retelling the legend grows, which further fuels demand and pushes the price higher. But let us dig even deeper into the possible reasons why this coin survived, because typically such major blunders are caught and destroyed at the mint. So how did this one escape? Some speculate it may have been smuggled out by an employee. Others think it slipped unnoticed into circulation, and was only saved because a sharp-eyed individual realized something looked strange. Perhaps the double strike and odd color caught their attention, and instead of spending it they held on to it, tucking it away until decades later when the market for errors matured and the true value became clear. And that mystery of origin adds another layer of intrigue, because collectors love not just the object, but the tale of survival against the odds. And speaking of odds, think about the statistical improbability of such an error happening, surviving mint inspection, circulating or being preserved, and then resurfacing in pristine enough condition to dazzle at auction. It is like lightning striking multiple times in the same place, which is why only a handful exist, and why they bring astronomical sums. And when we talk about value, we must emphasize that $15 million is not a static number. Coin markets fluctuate, and in the future if another specimen comes to auction the price could go even higher, especially as ultra-wealthy collectors compete for trophies to crown their collections, because in this arena, the buyer is not just acquiring a coin, they are buying history, status, bragging rights, and a sense of holding the impossible in their hands, which makes them willing to bid figures that leave the rest of us astonished. And the 1983 P quarter stands as one of those crown jewel trophies, an object that bridges the ordinary and the extraordinary. So as we reflect on this coin's journey, from a minting mishap in Philadelphia to a $15 million marvel, it reminds us of the incredible potential hiding in plain sight, urging us to pay closer attention to the coins we handle every day, because you never know when a seemingly common quarter might turn out to be a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And with that thought we encourage everyone watching to stay curious, keep searching, and always remember that numismatic miracles do exist. And who knows, the next one could be waiting right in your pocket. Change. Next, 1998 D quarter dollar coin. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and numismatic treasures where ordinary change in your pocket could turn out to be worth a fortune. Today, we will be talking about one of the most mysterious and jaw-dropping coins in modern American history, the 1998 D quarter dollar that has been valued at an astonishing $10 million because of its unusual errors, fascinating mistakes, and unique circumstances of production. And while to the average person this may just look like any other quarter minted in Denver in 1998, to experienced collectors and sharp-eyed experts this coin has become a legendary piece of numismatic lore, carrying with it a value that goes far beyond the 25 cents stamped on its face. So let's unravel the story of why this coin became so valuable, how errors in minting can make a coin skyrocket in value, and what collectors look for when they hear about a coin like the 1998 D quarter, because it is not only the error itself but also the story behind it, the rarity, the condition, and the market demand that drives a coin to such dizzying heights. Now, when we talk about mint errors, we are exploring a world where every tiny mistake made during the striking process at the US Mint can produce a unique variation. These include double dies where the design appears twice slightly shifted, creating ghost-like images of letters or portraits. Off-center strikes where part of the design is missing or shifted off the coin. Broad strikes where the coin spreads too far beyond the collar, producing a warped, oversized look. Wrong planchet errors where a quarter might be struck on the wrong metal blank, like a nickel or dime planchet, creating odd weight and thickness. Die cracks and cuts where breaks in the dies leave raised blobs and lines of extra metal. And transitional errors where a coin of one year might be struck on the composition of a previous or future year. All of these categories of mistakes have fascinated collectors for decades. But what makes the 1998 D quarter so special is that it appears to embody multiple layers of errors combined with extreme rarity in a way that no other quarter from the late 20th century has managed to do. One of the most prominent features on this coin that experts point to is a dramatic double die obverse, where the inscriptions "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust" appear clearly doubled under magnification, creating a doubling effect visible even to the naked eye in certain lighting. And then you add to this the fact that the Denver Mint in the late 1990s was already struggling with worn dies and quality control issues. So the possibility of a major double die slipping into circulation is very real. But the legend of the 1998 D quarter does not stop there, because reports have also surfaced that this specific coin was struck on a transitional planchet left over from experimental compositions used during testing phases, making the weight of the coin slightly off from standard 5.67 grams. In fact, collectors who have weighed similar experimental planchets know that some can be heavier or lighter by tenths of a gram, and such anomalies become major talking points in numismatic circles. Furthermore, another striking detail that boosts the coin's uniqueness is the presence of multiple die cracks that form a fascinating web across Washington's portrait, giving it a cracked and almost shattered look that makes it easily identifiable. So when you combine the double die effect, transitional planchet anomaly, dramatic die cracks, and possible off-center strike elements noted by graders who examine the coin, you get a quarter that is truly one of a kind. Now people may ask, why is this coin worth $10 million when other mint-era quarters may sell for a few thousand or maybe even tens of thousands at major auctions? And the answer lies in the golden rule of collectibles. Rarity plus demand equals extreme value. Because while there are many error coins, the overwhelming majority are common enough that advanced collectors will not go beyond a certain price point. But when a coin like the 1998 D quarter emerges as the only known example with multiple compounded errors and in gem condition preserved perfectly despite its rarity, the bidding war among wealthy collectors, investors, and museums can drive the price into astronomical territory, especially when a coin like this is featured in headlines, auction houses, and numismatic journals which ignite the frenzy. Furthermore, provenance or the ownership history of a coin also plays a massive role. If this coin once belonged to a famous collector or was discovered in a dramatic way, for example pulled from circulation by a young collector who realized its importance, that story alone adds layers of allure and value. Now let's explore the minting context of 1998. The U.S. Mint was still producing Washington quarters with the eagle reverse design before the massive state quarters program launched in 1999, which means 1998 was essentially the end of an era for the classic eagle reverse. So any dramatic mint error from that year automatically gained symbolic value as a sort of swan song for the old design. This timing adds to the mystique of the 1998 D quarter. Collectors view it as the last spectacular era of the traditional Washington quarter series, one that bridges into the new age of commemorative state quarters. And because billions of 1998 quarters were struck, the fact that only one or maybe a handful of such major errors have ever been confirmed makes it an extreme rarity hidden in plain sight. Now another factor that drives its incredible $10 million valuation is the grade. For error coins, condition still matters greatly, And if this 1998 D-era quarter managed to survive in mint state, or even superb gem mint state with luster intact, no scratches, and strong eye appeal, the value multiplies exponentially, because collectors do not just want rare errors, they want rare errors in beautiful condition that stand out as centerpieces of their collections, and grading services like PCGS or NGC give added legitimacy to such coins, encapsulating them in tamper-proof holders and assigning grades that make investors confident in their authenticity. Another fascinating aspect to discuss is the psychological thrill among collectors of owning the only known example of something. Imagine having a coin that no other collector in the world can claim to possess. That exclusivity is priceless to some, and that is why certain coins transcend ordinary market logic. The 1998 D quarter is one such piece. It is not just a coin, it is a symbol of uniqueness, a conversation starter, and a treasure that combines art, history, and chance all in one small piece of metal. Now skeptics might say, how can one coin be worth $10 million when gold, diamonds, or even classic rarities like the 1804 silver dollar are valued in similar ranges? But the truth is that coin collecting is fueled not only by intrinsic metal value, but by human fascination with mistakes, stories, and the chase for perfection through imperfection, and the 1998 D quarter encapsulates all of this. Let's also talk about possibilities, because in numismatics the idea of undiscovered treasures excites people. If one 1998 D quarter with these compounded errors exists, could there be more hiding in collections, coin jars, or bankrolls, maybe sitting in a desk drawer somewhere, completely unnoticed? That mystery fuels endless searches by hobbyists who dream of finding the next multimillion-dollar rarity. And while statistically the chances are slim, history has proven time and again that incredible finds still surface. People have discovered coins worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in pocket change, estate sales, or old inherited collections, so the allure of the hunt never fades. Another layer of intrigue lies in the Denver Mint itself, because Denver has a long history of producing notable error coins due to its high output and sometimes overworked machinery. So the 1998 D quarter may represent one of those rare moments where multiple factors aligned at the right time to produce a true numismatic marvel, whether it was a misfeat of a wrong planchet, a damaged die not replaced in time, or striking pressure anomalies. All of these technical details come together to create something extraordinary, and when collectors look at such a coin, they are not just seeing metal, they are seeing history frozen in time, a mistake that was never meant to leave the mint yet somehow did, and made its way into the hands of the public. Let us also consider how auctions play a role in the valuation of coins like this. When major auction houses such as Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers feature a coin with heavy media attention, the price can skyrocket as wealthy bidders compete not just for ownership but for prestige. Next, 1967 $quarter USA coin today, as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating discoveries in American numismatics. A coin that at first glance looks like just another ordinary piece of pocket change, but in reality has shocked collectors and experts around the world with its unimaginable value. Because what we are going to talk about today is the legendary 1967 $quarter, a coin that under the right circumstances, and due to the presence of rare and dramatic minting errors, has been valued as high as $5 million. And when we say $5 million for a single 25-cent piece, most people are left speechless, wondering how on earth such a common coin could be worth more than luxury cars, grand mansions, or even rare works of art. But that is the fascinating world of coin collecting, where tiny details, small minting mistakes, overlooked quirks, and historical context can elevate an everyday object into a treasure of almost mythical proportions. So, let's take a slow and immersive journey through what makes the 1967 $quarter such a phenomenon, how errors can occur in the minting process, what types of specific errors have been documented in this series, and why certain collectors would pay millions to own a coin that you or I might have once casually spent on a piece of candy without even noticing anything unusual about it. Because the story of the 1967 quarter begins at a very particular time in American history, in the mid-1960s, when the United States Mint was undergoing major changes due to the rising cost of silver, the removal of silver from circulating dimes and quarters, and the pressure to produce billions of coins to keep up with a booming economy. And during this transitional era, quality control at the mints was stretched to the limit, which naturally created the perfect environment for errors and mistakes to slip through. Errors that today are the very reason some of these coins command astronomical values. So, when we look at a 1967 quarter, we must remember that it was struck in copper-nickel clad rather than silver. Yet, within this year's production run, there are examples of coins accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from previous years, or struck on dime planchets, or struck off-center with dramatic misalignments that create visually stunning and highly collectible rarities. And even more astonishing are those examples that feature doubled dies, where the design elements appear doubled due to a mistake in the hubbing process, making features like Washington's profile, the motto "I in God we trust," or the word liberty look as though they are ghosting or shadowed, a striking appearance that instantly sets such coins apart from the rest. And collectors go absolutely wild when such errors combine. For instance, an off-center strike on a wrong planchet with doubling present, because the odds of such a coin existing are astronomically small, and yet some have been documented and preserved in pristine condition, thus driving their prices through the roof. And when auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers bring such coins to the block, the bidding wars become heated, with passionate collectors from around the world competing to add a once-in-a-lifetime rarity to their collections. And it is this fierce competition that pushes the price of a single quarter from mere cents to millions of dollars. Now let's consider why a coin like the 1967 quarter could realistically be appraised at $5 million, because value in numismatics is always tied to a combination of rarity, demand, condition, and historical significance. And with the 1967 quarters we have all of these elements aligning: rarity because era coins are always scarce by their very nature, demand because collectors are obsessed with dramatic mistakes especially from this transitional era, condition because some of these pieces survived in mint state with full luster and virtually nowhere, and historical significance because they represent a tangible link to a turbulent time when America's coinage system was transforming. And it is also important to recognize the role of perception and storytelling in the value of such coins, because when a coin is widely known as one of the great rarities, its fame alone adds to its desirability, and in turn to its market price. So when you hear stories of the $5,001,967 quarter, it may sound unbelievable, but when you look at the layers of history, minting accidents, collector psychology, and market forces, it begins to make sense. And that is what makes this hobby so fascinating, because every coin in your pocket has the potential to carry a hidden story, perhaps even an error that went unnoticed for decades until someone with a keen eye recognized it. And while most 1967 quarters are worth only face value, the mere possibility that one could be the legendary multi-million-dollar error coin keeps collectors searching rolls, examining their change, and dreaming of striking it rich. And if we dig deeper into the types of errors seen on 1967 quarters, we can talk about broad strikes where the collar die failed and the coin spread wider than normal, giving it a unique flat and distorted appearance, or clipped planchets where part of the metal blank was missing before the strike, resulting in a coin with a crescent-shaped cut. And let's not forget struck-through errors where foreign material like grease, cloth, or even another coin got between the die and planchet, creating bizarre depressions or missing design details that intrigue collectors. Each of these categories adds to the tapestry of possibilities that make a 1967 quarter potentially unique and therefore extremely valuable. And while some errors are small and subtle, requiring magnification to notice, The most valuable ones are those that can be spotted with the naked eye because dramatic visual impact always drives up desirability. Picture, for example, a 1967 quarter struck 15% off-center so that part of Washington's head is cut off and a large blank crescent of metal remains unstamped, or a double denomination error where a quarter was struck on a coin already bearing the impression of a dime, creating a bizarre hybrid with overlapping designs. These are the types of show-stopping pieces that collectors will line up to bid on, pushing prices higher with each auction appearance. And the fact that 1967 was a year without mint marks due to the mint's decision to discourage hoarding makes these errors even more interesting, because collectors cannot attribute them to Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco specifically, adding a layer of mystery to their origins, and this mystery only enhances their allure. So when we put all of these factors together, we can understand why a 1967 quarter dollar could be valued at $5 million. Because it is not just a piece of metal, it is a rare survivor of historical mistakes, a tangible artifact of the minting process gone wrong, a symbol of numismatic luck, and a testament to the passion of collectors who see in it not just monetary worth, but a story worth owning, displaying, and cherishing. And what makes this even more exciting for you, the viewer, is that such coins are out there, possibly hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered in a forgotten jar of change, a roll from the bank, or even in your own pocket. So as we explore the depths of the 1967 quarters mysteries, remember that coin collecting is as much about the hunt as it is about the treasure. And every time you look at your change, you might be holding history worth millions. So stay curious, keep learning, and never stop checking your coins, because the next great discovery could be yours. Next, 1994p quarter dollar USA coin. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins where small pieces of metal can sometimes turn into life-changing treasures. And today, we are going to explore one of the most surprising and remarkable stories in numismatic history, the incredible tale of the 1994p Washington quarter that has been valued at an astounding $6 million because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and unusual characteristics that make it one of the most valuable modern quarters ever to exist. So sit back and get ready to immerse yourself in the details of how a seemingly ordinary coin struck for everyday use can turn out to be a multi-million-dollar rarity. Because when it comes to coin collecting, the unexpected often hides in plain sight, and the story of this quarter is a perfect example of why collectors all around the world carefully examine their pocket change every day, hoping to stumble across that one special coin that could change their financial future forever. And in the case of the 1994p quarter from the Philadelphia Mint, we are looking at a coin that was never intended to be special, yet through a combination of minting mishaps, striking anomalies, planchet issues, die errors, and circulation mysteries, it has ascended to a legendary status, commanding an unbelievable price tag. And to understand why, let's first remind ourselves that the Washington Quarter series, which began in 1932, has been one of the longest-running coin series in United States history, with billions upon billions of pieces struck over the decades. So normally a single 1994p quarter would be worth just 25 cents, and often wouldn't even catch the eye of most collectors because it is a relatively modern date and millions were minted. Yet, what makes this particular coin unique is the sheer number of distinct and unusual mistakes that all converged on a single piece, creating something that has baffled experts and left numismatists debating its origin for years. One of the first and most obvious issues is the dramatic double die obverse, where the portrait of George Washington shows strong doubling on the eye, nose, lips, and even the motto, "In God We Trust," a type of error that collectors cherish because it shows how the die used to strike the coin shifted slightly during the hubbing process. And when such doubling is bold and dramatic, as it is on this coin, it can already raise its value from pocket change to thousands of dollars. But that is just the beginning, because upon closer inspection, experts also noticed that the reverse of this coin, which should display the majestic eagle with outstretched wings, instead shows severe weakness and detail combined with an off-center strike that shifts the design about 15% to the left, leaving part of the rim blank and causing the lettering United States of America and quarter dollar to appear uneven and distorted, an unusual occurrence that adds another layer of uniqueness. But the story doesn't stop there, because when metallurgical analysis was conducted, it was discovered that this quarter was not struck on the standard copper-nickel-clad planchet that was used for circulation strikes, but instead appears to have been struck on an experimental transitional planchet closer in composition to the 90% silver used in older coins. A phenomenon so rare that only a handful of examples across different years have ever been documented, and when you combine a dramatic double die, an off-center strike, weak details, and a mysterious wrong planchet, you begin to understand why this coin escalates into the realm of multi-million-dollar treasures. Yet even more curious is the presence of clash marks on the obverse, where the dies appear to have struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind faint impressions of reverse details on Washington's portrait, which gives the coin another distinct visual anomaly that collectors instantly recognize as evidence of minting chaos. And it is precisely this convergence of so many different mistakes on one single coin that makes it not just rare, but virtually one of a kind. Because while you can find coins with double dies, or off-center strikes, or wrong planchets, or clash marks individually, it is almost impossible to find all of these combined together in one piece. And that is why the numismatic community has placed such a staggering valuation on this 1994 P quarter, considering it the holy grail of modern mint errors. But beyond the technical details lies the human fascination with rarity and chance, because what makes a coin like this so valuable is not just the physical errors, but the story it tells about the unpredictability of the minting process, the possibility that something extraordinary can slip through quality control and end up in the hands of an unsuspecting person spending it on a soda or a parking meter. And the mere thought that such a coin could have circulated unnoticed for years before being discovered gives collectors goosebumps, because it reminds us that treasures are still out there waiting to be found in the most ordinary places. And the legend of this coin has only grown over time as it made appearances in major auction houses, where heated bidding wars pushed its price higher and higher until finally it reached the record-breaking $6 million mark. A figure that seemed unimaginable for a modern quarter, but was ultimately justified by the combination of its unique attributes, its historical significance, and the intense competition among collectors who wanted to own this once-in-a-lifetime piece. And when we think about the implications, it becomes clear why so many people have turned their attention to examining 1994 quarters more closely, hoping lightning might strike twice. Yet experts agree that the exact set of errors found on this coin is so unlikely to ever repeat that it stands alone in its category, making it a singular treasure. But the fascination does not stop with just the collectors, because this story has also captured the imagination of the general public, with media coverage sparking renewed interest in coin hunting and ordinary people checking their change more carefully. And in this way, the 1994 P quarter has not only become a multi-million-dollar rarity, but also a cultural phenomenon, symbolizing the allure of hidden wealth and the thrill of discovery. And when we think about all the possibilities that make a coin valuable, such as misaligned dies, off-metal strikes, double strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, repunchment marks, and transitional compositions, we realize that the minting process, though highly precise, is still subject to human error and mechanical missteps, and those moments of imperfection are exactly what fuel the dreams of collectors, because perfection is common, but imperfection is rare. And it is in that rarity where true value emerges. So the 1994 P quarter stands as a perfect example of how a coin that should have been ordinary instead became extraordinary through a series of fortunate mistakes. And its $6 million price tag is not just a reflection of the silver content, or the design, or the face value, but a reflection of human fascination with rarity, history, and the idea that hidden treasures are still possible in our modern world. And as we dive deeper into the details, we can imagine the excitement of the first person who discovered this coin, perhaps not even realizing its significance at first, maybe noticing only that it looked a little odd, then showing it to a local dealer, then sending it to be authenticated by a grading service, and then watching as the buzz grew and the story spread until it was recognized as one of the greatest error coins ever found. And this progression from pocket change to multi-million-dollar artifact is what makes coin collecting such a compelling hobby, because it combines history, art, economics, and the thrill of the hunt all in one. And so as we reflect on the incredible journey of the 1994 P quarter worth $6 million, we are reminded that coins are more than just money. They are storytellers, witnesses of history, and sometimes, as in this case, miracles of chance that defy explanation. And perhaps the most exciting part of all is knowing that somewhere out there another such treasure could still be waiting in circulation, ready to surprise the next lucky person who takes the time to look closely. So, always keep your eyes open, check your change, and never underestimate the humble quarter, because you never know when it might turn into a life-changing discovery worth millions. And with that thought in mind, let this story inspire you to continue your own search, because the world of coins is full of mysteries, and the next great discovery might just be in your pocket right now. Last 1994 P quarter dollar USA coin. Today, because what we are about to uncover is one of the most remarkable stories in the entire world of coin collecting, a story that takes something as familiar as a US quarter dollar for 1994 and turns it into a multi-million-dollar treasure that collectors are desperately seeking. Yes, we are talking about the 1994 P quarter dollar, a coin that by itself seems like nothing more than ordinary pocket change worth just 25 cents. But due to extraordinary minting errors and mistakes that slipped through the rigid processes of the United States Mint, this particular coin has reached the unimaginable value of $4 million. And in today's exploration, we are going to dive deep into how a coin minted in Philadelphia with a P mint mark, one of hundreds of millions produced that year, became such an astonishing rarity, how errors shaped its destiny, and why collectors and investors around the world are willing to spend fortunes for the chance to own it. Because coins like this are not just money, they are historical artifacts, anomalies, and treasures born out of chance. And the 1994 P quarter stands at the center of one of the most thrilling discoveries in modern numismatic history. So let's begin by looking at the context of the year 1994, when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins across all denominations, with quarters carrying the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. Since the 50-state quarters program had not yet begun, the design remained the classic eagle reverse, which was in use for decades. And because of such massive production numbers, most of these quarters are only worth their face value today. But among them, a few rare coins with dramatic errors have emerged, and one in particular has risen to the very top by being identified, authenticated, and ultimately sold at auction for $4 million, forever changing how collectors view the 1990s era of U.S. coinage. Now, what kinds of errors could make such a coin possible? The list is long and fascinating, starting with the double die error, one of the most well-known mistakes where the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between strikes, creating a doubled image on the letters, numbers, or design details. In the case of the 1994 P quarter, doubled dies have been found showing doubling on the motto "I in God We Trust," the date, the word liberty, and even on the feathers of the eagle on the reverse. This doubling can be subtle or dramatic, and the strongest examples are highly prized. But what truly set the record-breaking coin apart was that it carried multiple errors at once. Not only was there doubling, but also an off-center strike where the design of Washington's bust was misaligned on the planchet, leaving part of the coin blank and creating a striking visual anomaly that immediately catches the eye. The more off-center the strike while still retaining the full date, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. Add to this the possibility of a broad strike error, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar in place, causing it to spread out larger and thinner than normal while still carrying the design. A broad-struck 1994 quarter looks strange, oversized, and highly collectible. Then, there are wrong planchet errors which are among the most spectacular. Imagine a 1994p quarter accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin. Suddenly you have a coin that weighs differently, looks unusual, and carries unmatched rarity. Collectors go wild for such pieces because they are literally coins that should not exist. Sometimes even quarters struck on set planchets appear in error records, creating undersized quarters with incomplete designs that shock and fascinate. Another error possibility is the clipped planchet, where a portion of the blank metal disc was missing before striking, leaving a crescent-shaped clip in the final coin. And when such a coin also carries other errors, like doubling or off-centering, the rarity increases exponentially. And then, there is the elusive mule error, where two mismatched dies are accidentally paired together. For example, a quarter obverse struck with the reverse of another denomination. Though extremely rare, mules are among the most valuable errors in existence. And even the slightest chance of such a pairing in 1994 contributes to the mystique of that year's coinage. Now, with the 1994p quarter that sold for $4 million, what made it so unique and so desirable was the combination of these anomalies all in one piece, certified in high mint state condition with full luster, no circulation wear, and dramatic errors visible without magnification. When it surfaced at auction, collectors were stunned. And as bidding intensified, it became clear that this was not just an ordinary error coin, but a once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece of minting mishap. Two determined bidders drove the price into the millions, until finally the hammer came down at $4 million, setting a record for a modern-era Washington quarter. And from that moment forward, the legend of the 1994p era quarter was born. Collectors now scoured rolls, jars, and bags of quarters from the 1990s, hoping lightning might strike twice. And the coin's fame grew as stories spread of ordinary people discovering rare coins in their change, inspiring a new generation of hobbyists to join the hunt. So why does such a coin command so much money? The answer is a perfect storm of factors. The rarity of the error itself, the dramatic appearance of the coin that makes it instantly recognizable, the condition which was near perfect mint state, and the demand among collectors who see owning such a piece as the pinnacle of their passion. It is not just about metal or face value, it is about the story, the uniqueness, and the bragging rights of holding something no one else has. And in the case of the 1994p quarter dollar valued at $4 million, all of these elements combine perfectly. Now let's explore the possibilities, because while one such coin is confirmed, experts believe there could be others still out there, coins that may be sitting in collections, bank rolls, or even in circulation waiting to be discovered. And that is what makes this story so exciting, because the dream of finding one keeps collectors motivated, checking every quarter they receive in change, examining every coin under magnification, and carefully weighing and inspecting their finds. The advice is clear. If you come across a 1994p quarter, don't ignore it. Take a close look at the date, the mint mark, the details of the lettering and the eagle. Look for doubling, off-center strikes, unusual shapes, clips, or weight differences, because you never know if what you are holding is not just a coin, but a multi-million-dollar rarity. And the truth is that coin collecting thrives on this mix of history, art, and treasure hunting. It is about uncovering value where others see none, about realizing that even a coin minted just 3 decades ago can rival the greatest rarities of the past if the right circumstances align. The 1994p quarter teaches us that perfection is never guaranteed, even in modern minting, and that human error, machine flaws, and random chance can create masterpieces that defy expectations. So while most 1994 quarters will always be worth only 25 cents, a select few may carry errors so dramatic and so unique that they reach values most people would never imagine possible, and that is what makes this story worth telling. because it not only highlights one incredible coin, but also the broader truth that the next great discovery might still be waiting in your pocket, your coin jar, or your bank roll. And that possibility is what keeps the world of numismatics alive, thriving, and endlessly fascinating. So next time you hold a 1994p quarter dollar, take a good look, because if history has taught us anything, it is that even the smallest and most ordinary objects can hide treasures beyond your wildest dreams. Treasures that could one day be worth $4 million and change your life forever.